What's up, Otakuact fam? Welcome back to the channel. So we open with Jin-Woo and Thomas Andre, and immediately their senses flared in alarm. A surge of danger impossible to ignore. Like you can feel the tension through the pages. Thomas turned to Jin-Woo, his voice low and tense as he asked if he had felt it too. Jin-Woo gave a brief nod before both bolted to the nearest window. And then we see it. Outside, the city of Seoul had ground to a halt. Cars stopped in the streets, people stood frozen, staring upward with pale, lifeless expressions. The sky had changed. It wasn't just the pressure, it was something deeper. Jin-Woo's mind raced as he saw it, the massive magical presence they had felt. This was its true form. Beside him, Thomas muttered under his breath. It was the largest gate he had ever seen, even dwarfing the one Kamish had emerged from. His disbelief echoed the thoughts rushing through his head. Logic had just been torn apart. Reality itself felt like it was unraveling. Something unimaginable was coming. On the ground, stunned onlookers began snapping pictures with their phones, trying to capture the surreal moment. Reporters had gathered too, broadcasting updates with urgency in their voices. They emphasized the unprecedented magnitude of the gate. It was the largest ever recorded since the appearance of magical beasts. Dr. Bezer, who had long warned about the growing mass of magical energy gathering above the sky, eyes addressed the rising global concern. To him, the gate in Korea wasn't an isolated incident. It was a harbinger. He predicted that such colossal gates could soon begin appearing across other nations as well. The hopelessness really hits when a reporter asked what the wisest course of action might be in response to the event. Dr. Bezer, despite all his expertise in magical beasts and gate phenomena, gave a bleak response. All he could offer was a grim plea to pray, hoping the situation wouldn't spiral into disaster. But our boy Jin-Woo doesn't back down. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo soared through the skies on Kaisel, heading straight for the massive gate looming over the city. As Kaisel glided beneath it, Jin-Woo scanned the sky above, taking in the sheer size and presence of the anomaly. But here's where it gets interesting. But as he drew closer, something unexpected happened. He couldn't pass through. An invisible wall blocked his advance, halting him in midair. No matter how much he pushed, the barrier didn't budge. Jin-Woo narrowed his eyes, analyzing the invisible force. This wasn't ordinary. It wasn't a barrier that even the most powerful awakened hunters could break. The weight of responsibility is crushing him. His thoughts churned with growing unease. If this gate truly held creatures more dangerous than anything they had faced before, then his friends, his family, everyone he cared about were in danger. Then we get this crucial phone call. A vibration in his pocket snapped him back to the moment. His phone buzzed with the call he had been waiting for. Woo Jun-chul, the new chairman of the Korean Hunters Association, was on the line, calling to share the findings from the Hunter Bureau. The Bureau had finished its scans using satellite tech. Every inch of the planet had been surveyed, but there were no signs of other gates. This massive anomaly above Seoul was the only one. This is where the mystery deepens. Jin-Woo's mind spiraled through the implications. For 3 hours since the gate's sudden appearance, the world had remained eerily quiet. Not a single new gate had opened elsewhere. That couldn't be coincidence. Something larger was unfolding, something orchestrated. Gentile then informed him that authorities were now moving to evacuate civilians living near the gate, bracing for the worst. He asked Jin-Woo directly what his next move would be. Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. With firm resolve, he made it clear that no matter what came through that gate, he would stand his ground and face it. Ending the call, he slipped the phone away and turned his gaze upward once more. The gate loomed silently, motionless and menacing. Now we get to one of my favorite parts, the sparring scene. Later that day, Jin-Woo stepped into the Hunter Association's gymnasium, the space already prepared for what was to be an intense sparring session. Without hesitation, Beru surged forward, moving at lightning speed, his limbs afur as he struck. Yet Jin-Woo, calm and focused, dodged every attack with ease. The power scaling is insane here. Beru lunged again, his mandibles wide in a fierce attempt to land a blow, but Jin-Woo intercepted the strike mid-air, catching the mandibles in one hand. For a moment, Beru froze, his compound eyes blinking in stunned silence. He hadn't expected his king's power to outmatch his own this overwhelmingly. The character development, though. Jin-Woo looked at him calmly, wondering in aloud if Beru was truly giving his all. The words stung, and Bo immediately dropped to one knee asking forgiveness, but Jin-Woo reassured him. It was just a warm-up, and admitted that Beru was the only one capable of giving him a real challenge anymore. The affirmation filled Beru with a deep, reverent emotion, and he bowed his head even lower, declaring his loyalty with all sincerity. Jin-Woo, slightly embarrassed by the theatric, chuckled and teased him about how expressive he had become lately. Then, shaking off the moment, Jin-Woo took his stance again and focused, signaling with a nod that it was time to continue. Beru, already maxed out at commander rank, let out a sharp screech and launched into the air, wings buzzing with energy. He came down like a missile, slashing with deadly precision, but Jin-Woo dodged without flinching. Each of Beru's strikes whistled through empty space as Jin-Woo remained a phantom just out of reach. When Beru launched a left hook, Jin-Woo raised an elbow and blocked it effortlessly. Acknowledging the improvement, Jin-Woo noted how much stronger Beru had become since evolving to commander rank. Their sparring grew fiercer. Beru's pace quickened, his strikes harder, more desperate. But no matter how relentless the assault, Jin-Woo danced through it all, using the session to test both Beru's evolution and his own current limits. And then, Jin-Woo shows why he's the Shadow Monarch. Then came Jin's counterattack. A powerful left hook struck Beru square in the chest, sending the ants staggering backwards. Jin-Woo reminded him coolly but firmly that there could only be one commander in the army. With Igris and greed steadily closing in on the general rank, it wouldn't be long before they challenged him for that title. Beru's eyes flared at the thought, his pride suddenly on fire. He let out a guttural roar, the sound echoing across the gym as he threw himself back into the match with renewed fury, determined to prove he was still worthy. But here's the sobering truth. Jin-Woo, watching every move, came to a quiet realization. Even though Beru remained the strongest in his army, he still wasn't strong enough to face the threats that might soon emerge. This really shows how massive the threat is. The sparring session neared its end as Jin-Woo delivered a final blow, sending Beru flying across the gym. The summon crashed into the firewall with a thud that shook the room. Slumped against the cracked surface, Beru raised his head slowly, a rook, and once again acknowledged the vast power of his king. Jinu chuckled at the melodrama, shaking his head as he teased Beru about needing to start blocking historical drama channels. Bo, flustered and saddened by the thought, looked up at him with pleading eyes, silently begging him not to take them away. The aftermath is hilarious, though. With the sparring over, Jin-Woo glanced around the gymnasium and let out a quiet sigh. The place was wrecked. Pulling out his phone, he called the chairman, casually explaining the situation and offering to have his aunt's shadow soldiers handle the repairs. Meanwhile, we get this amazing scene with Thomas Andre. On the other side of the city, in a high-rise hotel in Seoul, Thomas Andre stood by the window as he gazed at the fossil gate looming over the skyline. Its eerie presence dominated the heavens, casting a shadow that reached even here. Beside him, Laura, his ever-loyal assistant, stood quietly. She couldn't help but wonder why, with evacuation protocols already in motion and international flights grounded, Thomas had chosen to remain. His reasoning is so Thomas. Thomas simply said he was drawn to the power emanating from that gate. There was no fear in him, only a deep, primal intrigue. Something about the unknown beyond that rift called to him. It wasn't something he could control, nor something he could claim, and that made it all the more irresistible. For Thomas, there was no reason to turn back now. Laura, however, reminded him that the Hunters Bureau was growing increasingly anxious. They feared what might come through, what horrors this gate could release upon the world. But Thomas merely let out a soft chuckle, swirling the wine in his glass as he confidently claimed there was no safer place in the universe than by Jin-Woo's side. But then we get this ominous thought. Yet beneath the bravado, Thomas knew the truth. If they couldn't stop whatever was about to emerge from that gate, then there would be nothing left beyond it. Somewhere deep inside, he wondered whether this would mark the end of humanity or the beginning of something entirely new. The tension in Seoul is palpable. In the heart of Seoul, the streets pulsed with tension as honk cars and hurried footsteps echoed off the buildings. Evacuation orders were in full swing, and the Hunter Association directed the chaos, hurting civilians to safety. Above it all, perched atop a high rise, Jin-Woo sat alone in silence, his eyes fixed on the dark gate, growing ever more unstable in the sky. This next part hit me right in the feels. Too many lives were at stake, and though he had faced countless threats before, this time it felt heavier than ever. Snapping out of his thoughts, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts, quietly wondering who he'd want to spend his final moments with if this battle truly became his last. And we end with Cha Hae-in. Elsewhere, inside a quiet dojo, the rhythmic clash of wooden blades rang through the air. Cha Hae-in moved with practiced grace, fully immersed in her training. But the moment her phone buzzed against the wall, her movements faltered. She reached for it, glanced at the screen and answered. Whatever was said in those few moments made her brow shift ever so slightly. She turned toward her master, requesting to leave. Something urgent had come up. With a silent bow and the master's nod, she walked away, a quiet resolve beginning to form in her chest. What did you think of this episode? Are you ready for what's coming next? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you're as hyped as I am, subscribe for more solo leveling content, and I'll see you in the next one.